Start. All right, we have Tara here with Hypnotic Power Hypnotherapy. How are you doing, Tara?
I'm doing really good, actually. As you see, I have
Excellent.
the beach.
Living the dream.
Yeah, I brought it back with me. I was in Mexico like 3 weeks ago, so I'm just pretending I'm still there.
That's nice. Jealous. So first off, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself growing up? Did you have an entrepreneurial spirit from a young age?
Yeah, my dad was an entrepreneur, so I think that it's innate, like instilled in me from a young age. He had multiple businesses, so I kind of watched him have this life where, he worked really hard, but he also had the ability to um, enjoy his life. And we had a boat as a child and lots of outings and went on many trips. So I think that I always kind of watched that and knew that that was probably something I wanted to do. I don't think I knew that I wanted my own business till I was probably in my 20s.
Mm-hmm. Did you find you were helping with the family business a fair amount?
My dad was he was a guide of like tour guide. So I didn't really help, but I definitely joined in on many of the tours. So
Oh, cool. First-hand experience. That's awesome.
exactly.
And so when did you start in the hypnotherapy business?
Yes. So I graduated in June. So I've been doing it just like about a year and a half because you begin to practice like right away in class. So I started school a year and a half ago in summer. And then, we practiced basically every time we got together. So by the time I graduated, I already had almost a year experience of practice. And then as I said, this isn't my first business either. So I didn't really waste any time. And as soon as I graduated, or actually probably before I graduated, I started practicing and like building my business. I did my own Facebook page probably within the 6 months. And then as soon as I think 2 months before graduation, I was already practicing and had a couple of my first clients. So
Awesome.
I didn't really waste any time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess your previous kind of business experience really kind of helped you propel this business.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in the past, my background is childcare. So that kind of helped because after I graduated from childcare from ECE like 10 years ago, I opened 2 of my own daycares. So I kind of had already a taste of what it was like to run my own business. It was a very successful business. So I knew the ins and outs of it all. So that kind of propelled me to know what to expect. And then when I was trying to kind of get out of childcare, I had my own affiliate marketing online. So that also gave me quite a bit of tools to understand and know how social media worked, how to build the Facebook page. So I feel like everything that I learned in the last 10 years kind of propelled me to really understand what I needed to do in order to get my business kind of flourishing. So I've been really, really lucky.
That's great. Yeah, everything just kind of every step you take is just a step closer to where you're supposed to be, right?
100%. And that is what I fully believe. So
And so why hypnotherapy? What got you, what drew you to that?
Great question. So probably around the time that I was trying to phase out of childcare, like I love kids, I have kids, but I was just like, I just felt like I needed more. Like I just really felt like empty. And at the time, and it's really interesting now that I've come so far and I know a lot about personal development and spirituality. I think that I was searching for more because my soul wasn't quite connected with what I was supposed to be doing. It's interesting how it will show up and surface in different areas. So I was feeling like really lost and like depressed. And I'm not I'm not a negative person. I am not a depressed person. And so I didn't understand what these signs were. Like I just thought, I was lost. What I was yearning for more. I'm like, what is wrong with me? So I went through a pretty rough patch for about 3 years where I used alcohol a lot to like numb myself because I just felt empty and lost. And unfortunately, I mean, that's what happens as humans. If we don't have the right tools or understand what's going on with us, then we might turn to alcohol or other sources. So for about 3 years, I got pretty heavy into drinking. I couldn't figure it out. Like I said, I had an affiliate marketing business, which I loved, but I couldn't get anywhere with it. And then at the time too, I was in a marriage that just was still missing some like components. So really just really unhappy in life for about 3 years. And I'm just like, something needs to change. And so it was really crazy because at the time we were living up north and we ended up my ex-husband got a job in Kelowna. So we're like, that's awesome. Like, I love Kelowna. Like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to move there. So kind of just I closed my business. We moved to Kelowna. It was like a lot and trying to figure out what I was doing. But when I got here, I just felt like, okay, this is it. This is like where I'm supposed to be. Now what? And so I'm like, okay, well, like I wanted to stop drinking. I knew that it wasn't serving me properly. So I'm like, what can I do? Right. And so again, I was always called to spirituality or like different types of spirituality modalities. So sure enough, actually one of the people in our affiliate marketing business hired a hypnotherapist. And so of course we're all like intrigued. What does this guy do? So he did a lot of talks about what he did, what it was that he worked with and everything. And I was so interested. And so he started offering sessions and I was like, I think I need this. And at the time I couldn't get in. It was really wild, like, but it was just not meant to be with him. So then it turned out his ex-wife was also partnered up with him and helping. So I ended up aligning with her and we really connected. And I ended up doing probably 3 or 4 sessions within a few months. I was able to quit drinking for the first time in like completely. I was sober for 30 days for the first time in like years. So that obviously really like opened my eyes to realize what I was capable of and that what I was missing and all the things. So, and then it kind of helped me figure out that I needed to heal myself. I had a lot of childhood trauma as a child, and a lot of these things we block out and we don't realize it until we're adults and we're trying to figure out what's going on with us or why am I not finding my soul's purpose? And it's like, well, most of the time that we need to go back and do some inner healing. I really specialize in childhood trauma now because I get it. I've been there. So I just took a liking to hypnotherapy right away. It changed my life instantly. And then about a couple of years later, I still was kind of like, what am I going to do with my life? Like I need to do something different. And then I just kept remembering that my hypnotherapist at the time just talked about how much she loved her job. And I was like, that stuck with me because you don't meet a ton of people, especially nowadays, that are like, oh, I just love my job. No, it's rare. And when you do, you're like, you really are in awe of them. And you think like, wow. And so I think it stuck with me for 2 years. It just kept coming back to me about, wow, she loves her job. Like, what a gift. And so I thought, well, like, why can't I do that? Right. Like, I was like, I like it. I'm being called kind of to spirituality, healing. So I ended up checking out the school, which is in Vancouver. It's called Coastal Arts, and they offer hypnotherapy, a bunch of other different things. So checked it out right away, applied for it, got in, and everything just kind of started aligning. So I was like, this is obviously the path that I'm supposed to be on. And it's kind of, I haven't looked back. So it's been a year and a half. I love what I do. I love being able to help people, teach people, just help them through the times that they think that they can't get through. So yeah, that's my background.
That's really
cool. And I love hypnotherapy.
That's so cool. And it's great that you are kind of like a living, breathing, walking testament to the fact that it works, right?
Well, and that's the biggest thing too. And I think that that's the difference between me and a lot of people. I mean, everyone comes with different skill sets or experiences, but really for me, I find, especially in the field that I'm in, you will draw in clients. I find that you can help or that you've been through experiences that they're struggling through. And so I really like my clients to understand that just because I'm a therapist doesn't mean like I'm perfect. Doesn't mean like I have all the answers. Like I'm still working in progress every single day. And I think people really need to hear that and know that don't put me on a pedestal because I'm still working and I still have things that I work on every single day. And never to understand that even if you get to a level or area in your life, maybe you're successful or you're doing the job that you love, which I love, doesn't mean that you can decide to stop working on yourself, or it doesn't mean that you can say, oh, I know it all. Like I totally, and it's completely untrue. So I think also is like teaching people true authenticity, not to put me on a pedestal. And I've been through the dumps. I've been through it all. And I want people to understand just because you're feeling like really down and maybe you feel like nobody else has been there or that they're not experiencing it, stop thinking that because it's like completely untrue. And it's just another story that we're all like holding. And
so you mentioned childhood trauma. Is that kind of who you're targeting or like who does work with you?
Yes, that's a great question. So childhood trauma is definitely one of my specialties. I really love that because I feel like a lot of people don't understand what it's doing in your day-to-day life as an adult. So when we have childhood trauma, most of us block it out. We have no idea that it's causing us the things that it's causing us. And then when you grow up or you're an adult and you're struggling, say you have anxiety, most people have no idea where the anxiety comes from. They think it's from this current day-to-day life, or what am I doing now that's wrong, or is it the stress? And yes, all these things play a factor, but the biggest contributing factor is triggers. So you might get triggered from some stress in your day-to-day life, but where is the trigger coming from? And most of the time it comes from childhood. So maybe you had some childhood trauma and now it's being reopened or triggered by something today. And people just have no idea that most of the time it stems back to childhood. And that's why it's really great to step into hypnotherapy, and you can be able to kind of open up your subconscious that you wouldn't be able to do. Like you could say, the doctor says, oh yeah, you have anxiety, cut down your stress, exercise, whatever, eat properly. And it's like, yeah, those are all great, like added
Good
stuff.
generic things to tell everybody.
Yeah, it's wonderful. But like, what's the root cause? The doctor doesn't go like, oh, like what happened to you as a child, or what's coming up for you. They never say like, I appreciate doctors so much, but the problem is they don't ever ask like, what's the underlying issues? They don't say like, yeah, they say, are you stressed? And you go, well, yeah, like everybody's stressed, but like, why are you stressed? So that's what I like to ask my clients, like, what's coming up for you now? And they'll be like, oh, well, I don't know, say like they have a big decision to make. I have gotten a couple clients lately that have these big choices, maybe life choices of career path, or they're separating from their spouse. And it's interesting how it will surface. I had a couple clients come in for like a fear of falling or fear of heights. And everyone thinks it's about the heights or the falling, but it actually has nothing to do with it. It's like a metaphor. And that's the thing. Same with anxiety, or the feelings and symptoms are usually a metaphor for something going in our life or something from the past that's coming up into our life now. So yeah, these clients came to me, and really what it was is they had these big choices to make, and the subconscious mind wants you to succeed and move forward. But if you're stuck and not moving forward, it would be like a metaphor for not wanting to move forward and falling, like scared of falling because you're scared of moving forward. So it's really quite interesting how our subconscious mind uses these things to tell us like there's a problem, like it's alerting you like there's an issue, but what is it? And like you can't just get answers usually from yourself. It's you have to go into hypnosis, or meditation is another great way, and usually these are where the answers come from. And most of the time it's childhood. A lot of the time it's childhood, and the wildest things come out. Like people have no idea that school, for instance, has like really left a huge imprint on many people. You might not even think, you might think, oh, I did pretty good in school, like in elementary school, I didn't really have any issues. But like the smallest little thing can come forward. I also have had a few clients that are just very stressed out with their job, and they feel like they have anxiety, and they're just really not enjoying their job. And it's like, well, why is that? And then usually they go back and it's like, because in grade school, they tried to go outside of the box and the teachers didn't let them, or they were ridiculed for something specific as a child in school. And so it's just like, it's really interesting because most of the time it's never what you think it is going in.
And is the power in discovering that that's the problem, or do you help like solve that problem once it's discovered as well?
Yeah. So most of the time, like it's pretty easy, especially with some symptoms, like anxiety is a pretty easy one. Fears, I get fears a lot. And again, they're never quite what you think they are. They're usually stemming from something along the line. So what we call it is like a root cause. So there was a root cause at some point in your life that your subconscious mind decided that was like a valuable moment for you, whether it's like traumatic or not. And then, like I said, these day-to-day symptoms or issues that would come upon are triggering this old memory. So without going into hypnosis, you really don't know the root cause of the problem. But most of the time it's pretty easy to sort out. You go back, you kind of like do a little bit of healing, and then what we call is subconscious reprogramming. So basically I go back to the root cause, which could be a traumatic event, a memory that just isn't like a happy one. And I want to make sure that I leave that memory, that moment, with you feeling good. So I do a bunch of tests on the moment. We can change. So you can never like obviously like change what happened, but you can make it a happy one. So say taking a traumatic event,
the emotion changes.
Yes. So like, for instance, I had this one memory that I went back to where my parents my parents used to fight a lot. They got divorced when I was 16. And it's funny as I just think it's like normal, but like in my subconscious mind, I hold all these terrible moments or memories. And so I went back to this one where my parents were just like having this really big fight. And so I was able to communicate with them as a child at that moment, tell them how I felt as a child, because in that memory, you're a child, right? And so we're speaking to that inner child at that moment. And I was able to speak to my parents and tell them how I really felt about that moment, how they made me feel. And so you're getting a bit of closure. And then on top of it, then from there, once you feel like good in the moment and you feel like you forgave them, you forgave yourself, then what do I want to do with that moment? Do I want to rewrite that story? Yeah, because like in my mind, it's like a sad story. So then I would, for instance, I think I went to Disneyland. I chose to go to Disneyland on a unicorn. So I went to Disneyland on a unicorn. So
Sounds
now
way
that
better.
memory, yeah. So now that memory's changed from this sad, crappy memory of my parents fighting to like, I went to Disneyland and I rode a unicorn. So now I come out of hypnosis feeling good, like I'm healed. Plus I feel like positive. So now that memory is scratched out as like a bad emotional trauma memory. So it sounds, I know it sounds a little easier than it is, but like, it's really quite that simple. And I know it blows people's mind. And the biggest stigma about hypnotherapy and hypnosis is like, still a lot of people think it's like woo woo, like witchy. And it's really not. Like if you believe in a natural path, like they're just going about it in a holistic approach. They're just finding different ways to help your body without, drugs or pharmaceuticals and it's the same with hypnosis. It's like counseling, but instead of counseling on the outside and being more of talk therapy, I'm going on the inside where you can't actually get to without my help. And we're just healing. And so I just really want people to start understanding there's nothing really scary or woo woo about it. It's really, all of us have these memories, emotions, feelings, stories, beliefs, whether you like it or not, they're there. And so wouldn't you want to have positive ones that are like impacting your life on a day-to-day basis? So
that's really great. I can see how that would be a rewarding thing to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really great. And so again, like just making people aware is like the biggest thing for me is like, I want people to be more aware that it's not scary. It's not weird. People are always like, are you going to make me do something? Like, I'm not a hypnotist. There is entertainment hypnotists out there and I'm sure they do a wonderful job, but what they do is very different than what a hypnotherapist does, right? Like my work is pretty serious. I want to help people heal and have a better life. I don't want to do some entertainment stuff I'm never going to do anything you don't want to. You're never going to say anything you don't want to. That is not true. It's a total lie. Even all these movies, I watched a movie about, there's a movie out on Netflix. I think I don't know what it's called, but it's something around hypnotherapists. And the guy is like implanting memories. And then he ends up like trying to kill this girl. Okay, well, first of all, there's no such thing as, there is implanting memories, but it's completely illegal. And like, you would lose your license. And why would you ever want to do that? But yeah, it kind of scares people. And it's like, we're here on your side to guide you, to help you, not like go in and twist things around. So
I think it's like more to what you were saying just earlier, where natural medicines and natural healing is becoming more accepted, right? As time goes on, something like hypnotherapy is just going to become more and more common practice.
Oh yeah, I feel like in the next 5 years, it will be like the number one therapeutic practice. And there's so many other modalities now, there's like body talk, touch healing. These are all other things that you can couple it with. Counseling is wonderful. And some counselors have a bit more gifts and abilities than others. But at the end of the day, the problem with counseling is, again, you're not going into the subconscious mind. So again, just to reiterate that, and for people that don't understand what that exactly means, is so when we're in every day, we're actually in a state of waking hypnosis. So like when you're driving to work sometimes, and maybe you gap out and you're like, holy, like, how did I actually even get to work? That's like waking hypnosis. It's where you go into autopilot. Your body's so used to going to this one place that you kind of check out for a moment. So it's very similar to,
you can all relate to that.
100%. It's actually really scary. And so that's actually why sometimes they say, like, say you're taking the same route to work all the time, or whatever you're doing, the same routine every day. It is really helpful to go a different way sometimes, because it snaps your brain into like, oh my God, I have to actually pay attention now because we're not going to the same route. So yeah, or when you're watching TV or a movie and you're like so into the movie that sometimes you feel like you're in it and you forget about everything, right? Like you
Mhm.
check out. Very similar to hypnosis again.
Mm.
And so what happens in our day-to-day life is we're in the conscious mind, and that's like where we hear all the monkey chatter, where your
Mhm.
brain never shuts off and you've always got this ego in the background. And what people don't understand is like the ego is not you, it's not your thoughts, it's just like this running program. And that's what people need to start paying attention to too, is not letting your ego take over. And this is really valuable, is when we're feeling negative or we have those anxiety feelings or whatever, anger, the stuff that's coming up, that's our ego kind of getting in our mind and trying to like mess with us. And if you start to realize that, you can easily stop those bad emotions, feelings from happening, because it's really, at the end of the day, it's your decision how you want to feel. So when the critical mind is going, yeah, we have all those racing thoughts of like, am I doing this right? Am I a good person? Am I enough? And these are all just story programs, beliefs that we've picked up. So that's a great thing about hypnosis, is we're no longer in the conscious mind. When I take you into hypnosis, you're quieting the conscious mind. You're going into the subconscious mind. And in the subconscious mind, there's 95% of stored memories, feelings, beliefs, habits, all the things. Like people have no idea. And that's where we can do all the work, because 95%, that's huge, right?
Mhm.
And like, unless you're actually in the subconscious mind, counseling, all that other stuff, that's on a conscious level. So yeah, talk therapy is really important, but like you're not actually going in the subconscious mind and you're not targeting that 95% of stuff. And that's why sometimes people are like, oh, I had a psychotherapist or I have a counselor, and that's wonderful. They're really helpful. And I think it's important. But why am I not getting better? Why are the symptoms still here? Well, because they didn't actually go into the root. And the only way you can access the root in subconscious is through hypnosis, which is a trance.
And would you
So I
say
think
that you like working with these other practitioners would be like the best
100%.
scenario? Yeah.
Absolutely. I always think that layering or like compounding any type of therapy is super important. I would never disregard anything at all. I think that at the end of the day, again, like I say, is people just need to understand what's coming up and why.
Mm.
So these symptoms, like most people have anxiety. Well, why? Why do you have anxiety? What is coming up for you that you think is causing the anxiety? So I tell my clients, write down, when is the anxiety coming up for you? Why was it coming up? Like, was there something before the anxiety that triggered you to feel the anxiety?
Mhm.
Do you have some big decisions to make? Like that's the problem, is we all have these big life choices or decisions and it causes anxiety. And most of the time it's just because it's unknown,
Mhm.
or maybe they're being triggered by a subconscious belief or story that we can't do it. We're not enough. And that's another thing too. So if those feelings are coming up for you, well, then you need to get rid of those stories and beliefs. And the only way to do that is go into the subconscious mind and reprogram it.
Mhm.
So it's really quite simple, but people just don't get it. But I find, more and more people are waking up. Um, More people are being spiritually aware, less scared about what's out there or being judged. That's another thing, is like people think that they're going to be judged if they're in hypnotherapy, and it's
Right.
like, it's actually, lots of people do it. It's becoming more and more like in demand.
Totally.
And like I actually have one naturopath in Kelowna too that's going to start referring me, because it's all intertwined.
Mhm.
So yeah, like
Definitely.
you're going to a naturopath to find out maybe your vitamin deficiencies or food allergies, which are huge. But then why are you having anxiety? Why can't you move forward in your life? Well,
Mhm.
that's probably when you should start doing hypnotherapy, or any type of therapy at the end of the day is going to be valuable. So
Mhm. That kind of is leading me into my next question. I know you haven't really been in this industry terribly long, but COVID, I feel, would have been almost a positive impact on your industry.
yeah, as
People
sad
are
it is
soul
to
searching.
say, absolutely. One of my very first clients who I've been working with now like 8 or 9 months, she's 13. And this is a problem with all our children growing up right now. They're coming up with all these things that we've never had to experience. COVID anxiety is like a symptom now. Like it
Right.
is a problem for most children. Having to learn schooling and socialization through Zoom, like it's wild, and it's actually
Mm,
becoming a serious problem for our youth, our children. So yeah, my first client, she was struggling. She didn't like to be on camera. She felt judged, all these things that were coming up for her that shouldn't be happening. And now I'd like to say that she has no issues. She doesn't worry about COVID at all. Like, she didn't want to leave the house before because she was so
wow.
worried about COVID. She is now into sports. She's like coaching volleyball. She's been like a positive, like, inspiration to like her team. Her coaches talk about this all the time. And it's like, yeah, because she's so young. And this is a thing too, is we forget, like, the younger that our children start therapies or hypnotherapy or any type of stuff, it's setting them up for success. Because now, instead of us as an adult starting to go back and work on those problems, the kids are already working on them because they're very fresh in their mind because they're so young. And I feel like people need to really like think about this more often. Is now this girl that I'm working with, thank God for her mom. I tell her all the time, because I know at first, she didn't really want to do hypnotherapy. She had some walls up, and now I'm like, you have to realize your mom has set you up for success. Because now this child's going to grow up and she's not going to have that childhood trauma, all those things that she could have took on, they're going to be cleared up. So this
Mhm.
girl is already going to be set up for success as an adult just from doing hypnotherapy at the young age of 14.
Yeah,
So I
incredible.
think that's another thing too, is like letting go of the idea that it's just for adults.
Mm,
Children can do hypnotherapy, and right now actually our youth are in so much trouble. The fact of the way that they've had to learn, the fact that they've had to see people with masks on, not like socialization has been ruined.
mhm.
So I think that's incredible to remember too. It's not just about you, it's now about the next generation. How are we helping them remove these blocks and stories? And again, because 0 to 7 is the most valuable time of a child's life. And this is when we take on the stories and the beliefs from our parents, from our peers. You take these stories on and you believe them until you're an adult. And one day you realize, like, this no longer suits me. And that's usually when you have to go to hypnotherapy, because you have this belief of whatever you took on from a child, and now it's against you in your adult life. So it's really important. I think it's kind of cool because when I was in child care, that taught me a lot about 0 to 7. So I already came in knowing that. And a lot of people just really don't put enough emphasis on 0 to 7.
Mhm.
So I think it's incredible too. It's not just for adults; it's for children. Children can start as little as 5 years old.
Okay.
I do work with my children as much as I can. I just think everybody needs it. Everybody needs help. So
Mhm. That's so true. Yeah, that's yeah, incredible. You mentioned Facebook and you mentioned referral partners. Like, what would you say is your biggest way of bringing in new clients right now?
I would say my website. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm on Google. I think I'm number 2 on Google in Kelowna right now, trying to push for that number 1 spot. And
Nice.
like I said, I've only been on there since September, I think. So
Okay.
doing
Excellent.
pretty good. Hopefully I can take over that number 1 spot here in the next like 6 months. That's what I'm pushing for. But yeah, websites, I do as much cross promotion as possible. I have a Facebook group on Facebook, and it's free to join. It's called Hypnotic Power Hypnotherapy.
Okay.
Um, and I do give away 1 free session a month for participants and people that are very active in the community, because I think that's important.
Oh,
So yeah,
cool.
so that's a great place to be. I drop lots of content there. I do try to do as many interviews with other practitioners or business people as possible, because I think it's
Hmm.
valuable for people to hear more about it
Get the
and
word
learn
out
more about
there.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so looking forward a little bit, where would you like to see, your business kind of at the end of 2022, 1 year from now?
Yeah. So I'm hoping to be like, I do have virtual clients, but I am mostly in person. But I would really like people to understand that virtual is just as perfect as in person. Like, it works just as efficiently. But people have, again, the stigma that because it's online, it's not going to work as great, but it's not true. So that's something to consider. And I would like to see a lot more clients virtually and across the world. I'm really trying to promote. I have another hypnotherapist who I'm going to do some stuff with, who lives in the UK.
Mm,
I have my first retreat, second retreat. I have done my first retreat here with one of the other local businesses in town. We had our first retreat in October. It was in Kamloops. but I would like to see myself doing more retreats locally and globally. So I have a retreat that I'll be attending in San Diego in the new year. So that will be
Nice.
so cool. So yeah, I just want to start kind of like affecting more globally and getting more
Branching
virtual
out.
clients.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of what my game plan is, and just be really successful and help as many people as I can.
Mm-hmm. And so when you say like getting globally, are you taking any steps to like get there now? Like, are you making contacts in other countries or?
Yeah, so like I said, I have like really like love networking. So I try to just pick up as many networking people as I can wherever I can. I just try to kind of always put myself in places, really try to step out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really social, so I have no problem with that. And I love what I do, and it's easy to talk about. So yeah, just trying to partner up with people, doing interviews. I share my group anywhere I can. I have another lady too, who's actually a spiritual medium. She is in the US. And so we're going to actually start doing some stuff together too. So I've kind of like made some contacts.
Sure.
I have a lot of friends that are in Mexico. So the great thing about affiliate marketing is you make a lot of contacts all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I've
Mm-hmm.
kept those contacts and I really just try to use them as much as possible.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, being comfortable with being uncomfortable and going and networking and doing these kinds of things is almost instrumental in becoming a successful business owner.
I agree 100%. Just putting yourself out there. And I know that can be hard for some people. And again, that's just trying to figure out, well, like, why is it hard for you? And like, maybe that is another story or belief that's holding you back. And I'm not going to lie,
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning, like it felt uncomfortable. And I'm just like, you have to sometimes push through those uncomfortable feelings. And then again, maybe get some healing and figuring out why it's uncomfortable for you. Cause that's pretty important too.
Well, I think trying new things will always be uncomfortable, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you become, right? It's just, yeah, like you say, pushing past that initial fear. And then you realize, well, everything's okay. I'm okay. And it turned out good.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I remember the first time I did my first interview, I think it was in the summer. And I was so nervous and I had the script written out and I'm just like, like I was so nervous. I think I stuttered my words quite a few times. And I know that that's like normal. But it's
Totally.
funny now, I think I've done 3 or 4 interviews and it's like it just flows. And it's like just, yeah, getting over that initial hump and like
Mm-hmm.
really believe in yourself too. And that's a whole nother thing. It's like I said, story belief is like, am I enough? And like you should feel like you're enough. And so if you're not, then that's something that you probably need to work on.
100% agree. Awesome. Well, I just got a couple closing questions here before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Someone like you who has started a number of businesses probably have some great advice. If someone were to start a business today, regardless of industry, what advice would you give them?
So I would probably touch again on just putting yourself out there and not being scared or uncomfortable. I think again, people need people. So getting out there and meeting the people, doing the things, because it's pretty tough to build a business nowadays. Like everybody's online. So if you're sitting from your home trying to build your business and you think that you're just going to do it without networking or meeting people, you're probably not going to get anywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
again, putting those uncomfortable feelings away and just sticking yourself out there and believing in yourself. Like if you started this business, it must have been for a reason. So remembering what that reason was, the universe pushes us in a direction for a reason. And again, this is another thing I tell my clients is like, the universe wants you to succeed. The universe loves you. And so this is a really great affirmation for people to practice. And it took me a long time too. So trusting in the universe and knowing that it wants you to succeed. And then you just listen to your intuition, get out there, meet the people, and everything will just start working out.
Totally. That's so great. Well, this has been really awesome getting to know you and your business a little bit better. Is there anything we didn't touch on today that you'd like to share with the readers?
No, I think that's great. I really appreciate your time and bringing me on. That's so awesome. And again, like getting out there and sharing with Kelowna or any other groups and contacts. Again, this is what it's all about. So
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait to show you what we come up with.
awesome. Thank you so much, AJ. Have a great day.